Before we dive into today's episode, I have something truly special to share. Next September, I'll be leading an intimate women's retreat through the south of France and northern Italy, and you're invited. Picture this: mornings exploring the colorful markets of the French Riviera, afternoons sipping wine, and a hotel view with golden Mediterranean sunsets. Whether you love photography, food, or just want to reconnect with your playful creative self, this trip is designed for you. Spots are limited, so if all this sounds like your kind of adventure, please visit tourwithabsolutely.com and look for the tour France and Italy with Crystal. You can also send me a message or check out the show notes. Claudine Hemingway is a descendant of famed writer Ernest Hemingway. We bumped into each other at a party and decided to team up and dive deep into French history, but with a twist, by bringing a spotlight to those lesser-known creatives in France. This is History with a Hemingway. All right, guys, we are back with Claudine, and we are continuing through our Louvre journey with all this beautiful fashion and now tapestries. And I'll let Claudine take it from here.
Yeah, so I don't know if we're going to get this done before it closes because I put so much research into these things. Hopefully we could have this done before it closes, but either way, even if we don't, it's pretty fantastic. So if you haven't seen this exhibit yet, this is the perfect way to be able to find out more about it and actually see images of it. So you could go to my website, claudiahemingway.com, and see all the pictures of the pieces of art that go along with the fashion as well. And they did extend this exhibit through August 24th. It was supposed to be closing up this week, and they extended a whole nother month, which is so great. But they definitely probably will not be sending it another week in there or another month. And this will not be a traveling exhibit. A lot of exhibits, will go from, Paris to New York or someplace else. This one will not be traveling. So
Get over there, guys. It's well worth a visit.
It is. It's pretty amazing. So we've been talking about the Renaissance and the last one we did 2 weeks ago. We're going to continue on to the Renaissance, and the pieces in this rooms that we'll talk about the next week or two are pretty amazing, including the one that I'll tell you about next week that is just phenomenal. But this is another room that it was also created just for these pieces. As far as tapestries. And so this is part of the Louvre as well, that if you are coming in the summer, even if it's not right now, this is a part of the Louvre that is air conditioned. And when I say air conditioned, it's like a meat locker. And in the last few weeks, it's been amazing.
Yeah, no, this is the weather we're looking for right now, too.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the next like 10 days in Paris is supposed to be like 73 degrees and maybe some rain, and I'm really not going to be mad about it. I'm kind of just fine with it. But this part of the Louvre, as I've told you before, opened in 1993. So we did a whole episode 2 years ago all about this section of the Louvre, the Richelieu wing, and how they rebuilt it and created it just for the Objet d'Art section, as well as the French statues on the ground level. So they were able to construct these rooms to fit specific things, like these tapestries, like the last room that had the 12 tapestries. This one is tapestries that were created for Louis the 14th. They date back even farther than that because the original ones were done by Francois Premier. We owe the Renaissance and the love of all those artistic things in France to him. His mother, Louise de Savoie, had raised Francois and his sister Marguerite with a heavy mix of art, literature, and all things Italian Renaissance. She is the one that actually brought the fork to France. That Catherine de Medici, who is, the Serpent Queen, gets all the credit for bringing silverware to France. But in actuality, it was Louise.
Oh, I thought it was the Serpent Queen.
Not the serpent. She's just the serpent.
Witchy.
Yeah, people say she was a serpent queen, but oh, hey, wait, she brought us forks. Which you will never see a French person eat with their hands, including a hamburger.
This is so funny. I mean, I've become that way now. I can't pick up a burger anymore.
No, but the first time I did it, it was so difficult, and I accidentally ordered the burger like rare, and it was literally like rare in Paris, and I could eat rare meat, but rare in France is basically it was pretty much just steak tartare seared on the outside. And it was so difficult to eat that hamburger with a knife and fork. But you do still see some younger French people, they'll pick up a hamburger, but for the most part, they're using a fork and a knife to cut the hamburger.
Do as the French people when in France.
Yeah, then you don't, your fingers don't get all dirty. Francois Premier became the King of France at just 20 years old. His mother was only 18 years older than him, and was a very close advisor. And it was Francois that we owe the Louvre that we see today in it, and also a lot of the art, because the basis of the collection of art from the Louvre was Francois Premier. So we owe this guy a lot.
Thanks, Francis.
Thanks, Francis. The great chateaus of the Loire Valley were built under him, and that is also what kind of ushers in the Renaissance. They were very cold and drafty in the winter, and so you had these large-scale tapestries were created to help fend off the cool drafts and add a little bit of flash to the stone walls. In 1532, Francois commissioned a set of 24 tapestries made in gold and silver, and then silk chronicalizing the deeds and triumphs of the Scipio d'Afrique, and he from the atelier of Guillaume de Moyen in Belgium. The largest collection of were woven, which once hung in the Chateau de Chambord. During the Revolution in 1797, the French actually melted them down to get the gold and silver threads.
That's wild. They melted them?
Yeah, they burned them and then they melted down and got the threads because it was actually made with gold and silver. So they destroyed them themselves. But Henry II, who's the son of Francois Premier, in 1577 commissioned a reduced set of 10 for Jacques d'Albon, who was the Marshal of France. He completed them with a coat of arms in the upper corners. They were later purchased by Cardinal Mazarin in the 17th century and then into the hands of Louis XIV. This set was sold during the Revolution, and four have found their way to Hearst Castle in San Simeon, California. So if you're in California, go check it out.
I've been there. They're beautiful.
Yeah, I mean that place is pretty amazing. They actually have some of somebody in my family that was a painter. Some of his paintings are there too.
No way. That
Yeah.
place is really cool. I went there before I ever went to Europe, and I was like, now I need to go to Europe.
I know. Isn't that the one that has like that's not the one that has like the hallways to nowhere. That's a different place.
No, that's a different place. This place is just famous because they literally traveled all over Europe and brought back all these ideas to design this
Right.
beautiful castle.
Yeah, and I found some of the pictures online when I was trying to find images of the other tapestries that aren't in the Louvre. I actually saw some of the images online of it. It was really interesting, but it does look exactly like a European castle.
Yeah, you have to go there too, guys. It's beautiful.
Very cool. Under Louis XIV, the superintendent of buildings, arts, and manufacturers, the Marquis de Louvois, ordered numerous tapestries from the Garde Meuble. While they weren't very busy at the time, and this is what you would have as the Gobelins now, they weren't very busy, so because they were undergoing a lot of financial issues. So to keep them busy and keep them working, he decided, well, let's just make a bunch of tapestries and we'll have them for the chateaus. But this way it was less expensive because they were doing something from designs they already had instead of commissioning artists to create new ones. So 8 of the 10 tapestries dating back to 1688 can be found here in the Louvre, and the other 2 are still in the Gobelin. So we don't get to see 2 of them. And I tried to find a list of the 24 and like the titles of each one and the theme, and I had no luck. And you know how long I take to try to find information.
That's pretty big if you couldn't find them.
If I gave up and walked away, then it means that I probably gave up 100 hours to it.
Exactly.
Uh, but with Louis XIV's penchant and adoration of significant mythological and military figures, Louvois knew that he would hit a home run with the selection of the Scipio tapestries. Scipio Africanus was born around 236 BC in Rome, so a very long time ago. His father, that had the exact same name as him, except for the Africanus, which I'll tell you about in a bit, was a Roman general who took his young son with him into battle in 218 BC at the combat Tessin in northern Italy. He witnessed his father and his uncle become badly injured and saved them. The episode is captured in the first tapestry on the west wall when you walk in. Tessin, today's Turin, which you could see in the background of the tapestry, was controlled by the Carthaginian general Hannibal Barca. Scipio's Roman army of javelin throwers was no match. Hannibal's army, with the help of the Numidian horsemen, attacked and killed many of these Roman soldiers. In the lower center of the tapestry, Scipio Sr. is depicted falling from his horse with a huge gash in his head. These are really amazing when you get close to them. The room is not it because two of the window bays are covered because of the fashion in there. Sometimes, depending on the time of the day you're in there, the light isn't great. So it's, especially if you're going to go there after the exhibit closed, you'll probably be able to see things a little bit better, but still make sure you go see it. To the right of the tapestry, one thing that is really amazing that they did in this room is a carton. So the carton is what is created. It looks kind of like a big painting, but you will notice if you look closely that it definitely doesn't have the depth or the richness of the color, and you don't see any brush strokes on it. This is what is created so that they can make a tapestry. So this was a scene done by Fermo Gicioni. The tapestry was created from this. It was painted with tempera on sheets of paper that are then glued together and laminated. And when you go look at it, you don't really notice it as well. But I noticed when I was going through my photos, when I was doing research, that you could really see it. Sometimes those things, your phone captures what your naked eye can't.
That
So
makes a lot of sense. So you can zoom in.
but you could actually literally see how they're just huge sheets of paper, and it's almost like tissue paper, a little bit thicker than tissue paper. And they just laminated them together. And so they're not doing it on a big canvas. So I'll put the picture on my website so you can see it because the image needs to be malleable enough so the weavers could then copy it and move it around. And so when they are weaving it, there's two things. I learned a lot about tapestries during this. There is the warp, and the warp threads go on the loom before the weaving begins. They are the vertical threads that go all the way across. They're pulled through with tension in the loom, and this is where they put the design. So the design goes onto this warp. The weft, W-E-F-T is how it's spelled, is the horizontal threads that then create the actual scene of the tapestry. So the vertical threads, when it has it almost has like an ink version of the tapestry is there. Those completely disappear once you've put all the horizontal threads through, and that's what makes the scene.
Oh, that's so crazy. Now I want to take a closer look.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So the neutral colors are often found in wool, while the bright colors are typically used in silk. This is why when you look at the tapestries in museums, and why I have so many people that'll tell me, oh yeah, really, you could be in, a church or anywhere, and people tell me afterwards, oh yeah, I don't really love tapestries. And it's because the colors on it fade. And so over time, some of these tapestries like these are, hundreds and hundreds of years old, and that color is just gone. And so it kind of gives this very muted color, and it's almost sometimes even hard to make out what is even on the tapestry, but it's the silk, the colored silk, that just doesn't hold up as well.
That makes sense. It would fall apart eventually. And yeah,
It
but
just
I've always been amazed by tapestries for that reason.
and it fades, and you also have to think of these were created to insulate pretty much these stone walls. And in that you would have had humidity, you would have had, the heat from the fire. And so none of those things were ideal conditions to be having anything of value that you wanted to remain hundreds of years later. Of course, there is a ton of restoration they could do on these, but not to the point of redoing the whole entire thing. There are two new tapestries in the Louvre that are on close to part of the I'll tell you about them because there's two pieces in where these are. They have nothing to do with the fashion, but they are from the 17th century. They were just acquired last year and hung up a few months ago. They are so bright, like the red is red. It's amazing to see how much brighter those are, and they were found in an attic.
In an attic? What the heck?
Yeah, I'll tell you. We'll tell you about it in a couple weeks. But the second episode, so the first episode you see there in the tapestry and the carton. The second one is the capture of Carthage. It was on the Iberian Peninsula. Was a triumphant moment for young Scipio. Under his army of more than 28,000 men, he had 34 boats and 3,000 horses. He attacked Hannibal and his army before they could react. The army stretched on for miles, and you can see that throughout the image of the tapestry on the tapestry, with Scipio in the lower right-hand corner urging his army to fight. The tapestry shows the dominance he had over Hannibal's army, marking one of the defining moments of his career. The third tapestry is the most famous episode of his life. It could also be found on a ceiling in the Louvre. The continuance of Scipion takes place around 209 BC after his control of New Carthage. On the left, a Roman soldier is presenting a young lady they have captured who is betrothed to a Spanish prince. The Roman soldier has come to Scipio, who sits on a throne and presents a basket of precious items. In the hopes of being able to pay for her release, Scipio in turn orders her release and calls off the marriage, tells the father to keep the items for her future dowry as long as he pledges his allegiance to Rome. The scene is also on the ceiling of the summer apartments of Anne of Austria, which we talked about many, many months ago.
Full circle.
Full circle. Exactly. The next hanging is another carton. This is a smaller version of the story. And the scene is 204 BC after Scipio has conquered Spain. He sought to establish an alliance with the neighboring countries to consolidate his dominance. However, he also attempted to gather intelligence and information on his enemy at the same time. He was invited by the Numidian king, who was already an ally of Carthage. It's depicted in the image on the right. Sifax, the Numidian king, is sitting on the throne, and Scipio is just to his right. Across the table is Hasdrubal Disco, who looks quite confused. In the background, there's gold and silver vases and urns, and you could just tell they're having this big, fancy, lavish meal, trying to win him over. The size of this carton is reduced from the actual tapestry, which is the one that's in the collection, the Garde de Meubles. We skip across, we don't even know what number 5 was, but episode 6 is his arrival in Africa in 204 BC. He was named consul in 205, and Africa was next on his horizon, arriving first in Sicily, which you know so well. He gathered more than 30,000 troops and 450 boats and warships. So now when you go to Sicily next, you're going to have to see if you could find anything.
Now I have even more to look for. I mean, you know how much we love Sicily. We were just there like 2 weeks ago.
I know. Maybe I'll have to look up and see if there's any reminders of him there so you could go find him for us. But between the late summer and early fall, Scipio and his army arrived in Utica, which is on the northern tip of what is now Tunisia. Scipio is seen on the right wearing smashing red leggings and wrapped in a blue cloak with stars pointing towards the shore. The chaotic scene of the boat gives its moments the waves being splashed against the boat's relief of Roman gods. So on the bottom of the boat, it's really an amazing one. In 202 BC, Scipio finally defeated the Carthaginians. The next one is the fire at camp. It captures a day that some historians say may have been a bit exaggerated, but if you're going to put in tapestry, who cares? After the dinner, when he had at the Numidian's palace, Scipio gathered intel that he would later use. He decided to set fire to his own camp. He caused such a massive confusion that the Roman tactician used it to attack his enemy. Scipio is seen on the right upon his horse as he rushes into the confusion. In the upper right, you can see the elephants of the Carthaginian army. It's just too hard of a word to say, which we will see closer in the next tapestry. I love these elephants. And years ago, I'd always go by there and just see the elephants. The decisive moment in the story of Scipio comes in the last tapestry, which is the Battle of Zama, taking place on October 19th, 202 BC in Zama Regia near Sylania, Tunisia. The army, the Algerian army, joined forces with Scipio's massive army and took on Hannibal Barca and his army. Which was led by 80 war elephants. They were specifically trained to accompany him everywhere, including over the Alps to Italy, each topped with a hoda, which is a box-like saddle with high sides that held soldiers armed with bows and arrows and javelins. And when you look at this, and you can see the picture I'll put on my website, it's like this huge, massive box because, an elephant is huge. And there's like a dozen men inside of this thing. It was the first line of defense. The large elephants were quickly startled by the Roman horns and began to retreat in chaos. Poor elephants.
Yeah, the war elephants. I don't like that.
Yeah, they were actually trained to do that. And I watched a show that was originally on PBS and about Hannibal and trying to track where it was that he went over the Alps to get to Italy, because he literally walked these elephants through northern Africa. When they would go over on a barge, some of them, because they were so big, they would fall off or it would sink. But luckily, they would go in places that, because the elephant was so tall, that they could just keep their head in their trunks out of the water to breathe.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. I never
I
knew.
know. But I see every time I see I look at these, I'm like, oh, look at the cute elephant.
That's so sweet.
But you would be a little scared. But it's, this is 202 BC. And so here they come in with bows and arrows and javelins. Like, let's go back to that kind of war.
Exactly. Leave the elephants out of it.
Leave the elephants out of it. Hannibal was no match. He was defeated, ending the 18-year war. Scipio was awarded the name Africanus for his heroic role in ending the war in Carthaginian Africa. I just can't say it. He'd go down in history as one of the most outstanding leaders. He inspired everyone from Julius Caesar to Napoleon Bonaparte, as well as Francois Premier and Louis XIV, who had copies of the tapestries created. And they are really, really cool. The borders of them there's flowers and everything. It kind of goes with one of the pieces in there. But there's all these little little children, and just look closely to keep this PG, 13. I won't go into details of what some of these kids are doing, but some of them, they're just like, wow. And one of them is a little boy and he's peeing on something, and it's pretty hilarious to look at them, because I'm sure they were like, okay, we've got to come up with 30 episodes of these naughty little children doing something. And so
Weird things.
you'll just have to look closely at them. But the piece of fashion that's next to this is that they kind of paired with it, has to do with the flowers that go around the edge of the tapestries. It's a dusty mauve pink Alexander McQueen suit. It appeared on October 2006 at the Cirque d'Hiver in Paris under a lone crystal chandelier that was covered in spider webs and tulle. The spring-summer 2007 collection of McQueen's own label was named Sarabande, which is a popular Spanish dance that was swept through France in the beginning of the 17th century. Even Cardinal Richelieu was known to do this dance in the Louvre. This was the 29th collection of McQueen, who was inspired in part by the 1975 Stanley Kubrick movie Barry Lyndon. And literally a day or two after I was looking up that movie, I saw, and it's probably because of the algorithm, that they are doing a remastered version of this movie and re-releasing it. So maybe, in case anybody wants to check it out. It took place in the 18th century British society. Ryan O'Neal recreates a period's costume, which comes to life on the runway with a touch of Spanish influence, is how he kind of brought it into the collection. It's romantic, poetic, theatrical, and decaying are all words used to describe this collection. The look we see in the Louvre was the second to last of his 46 pieces. It's dusty pink silk moire and tulle. It's a very structured jacket featuring a wide open boat neck and bell sleeves that's paired with a skirt that evokes a abbreviated pannier side hip cage. It's reminiscent of days gone by. McQueen filled the neck and sleeves and inside the pannier with fake flowers that overflow, much like the tapestries. Do you remember seeing this one?
No, but it sounds pretty amazing.
It's one of those ones where it's kind of like people are like, "Oh, I don't know if I love that one." But it is pretty. I mean, this is definitely one of those things where you would not wear it. Like this is
Yeah.
something that some of like, Kylie Jenner or Cardi B would wear to a fashion show.
Yeah, it's not like the everyday
It's
outfit.
not it's not pret-a-porter. No. And I have very, very strong feelings when it comes to fake flowers and specifically about them being taken over Paris. But this final piece include the exhibit that was right after this included both real and fake flowers. And as the model walked, the real flowers kind of fell off. It was kind of a take on, the decay and, the realness, but then how it just ends up dying. It was set in the center of the winter circus, is what this building is called. It's Toulouse-Lautrec loved to visit and sketch there. It was reclaimed wood stage, was a reminder of Shakespearean in the round stage. The orchestra sat under a chandelier playing Handel's Sarabande, complete with a harpsichord as the models passed in the center. McQueen created 7 more collections until he tragically died on February 11th, 2010. He took his own life just days after his mother passed away. His final collection was only 80% complete at the time of his death and was due to hit the runway a month later, on May 8th at a closed and private showing. His final 16 pieces of his collection were unveiled to a very select and private audience. After he died, his longtime friend and muse, Sarah Burton, took over the house after his death and led it until 2023 when she moved to Givenchy. McQueen also served as a creative director of Givenchy from 97 to 2001 before leaving to solely focus on his own label. Today, the McQueen, it's now just McQueen. It continues on under the leadership of Irishman Sean McGear. It's part of the Caring Gucci family of labels. And I will put a video. It's not the greatest of video on YouTube. It's a little grainy, but I'll put a video of that whole collection, so you could see it and check it out because it is pretty interesting. It's a really cool setting that he did. He was very theatrical from the start and kind of pushed a lot of boundaries. So it's pretty sad that his life ended the way he did, but the label still goes on.
And the beautiful work that we see today.
Yes, so it is pretty it's pretty cool. I mean, go check it out. But it is the pannier is basically like those cages. So if you've seen um paintings and images of Marie Antoinette and people like that where they have, and it looks like their hips are, insanely wide because it has the pannier is what it's called, cage underneath it, so that's what makes it so, they'd have to walk sideways through a door. So he kind of does that on this, even though it's more of a, it's the skirt goes very close in at the model's knees, but it's a pretty cool take, and I'm gonna have to see that movie when they redo it.
Well, guys, make sure you head over to claudinehemingway.com to learn more and tune in next week because we'll have even more information. Thanks for listening today, guys. If you're interested in learning more about Claudine, her tours, history, and the beautiful photographs that she posts all over Instagram, tune into her website, claudinehemingway.com.